Hi, the following is a conversation with Lucy Landymore, an incredible drummer, percussionist, and composer from London. She has a fantastic academic background, but a very strong field experience as well. She's going to bring us some insights about how she navigated across so many different styles and instruments, and how she brings it all together when she's performing or composing. Let's go for it. Okay, so we have Lucy here. Thank you, Lucy, for joining.
My God.
First of all, I want you to introduce yourself a little bit with your words and answer me the question, why are you so damn good as a percussionist?
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm a percussionist, and I've always been keen on percussion since I was 2 years old. I started on drum kit, and it grew from there. When I was a teenager, I became fascinated by tune percussion, and then I studied at music college. And just before that, Latin percussion took my attention, mainly Cuban percussion, and then later on I moved on to Brazilian percussion. And whenever I travel, which I travel a lot these days, I just try to soak up the musical culture to all the places I travel to. And that's why I was particularly interested in Drum App, because there are all these different styles of music contained in one app. I think it's really cool.
Cool. I love that you like it. Amazing. So one thing that calls a lot my attention when I was follow you and I see all the things you play and all the things that you share um, is the diversity. I think it's incredible how you can really go deep into so many different styles and techniques, and there's so much into each genre and and instrument. Like it's a really a world. Just the snare drum for samba is a world, and there are people that just do their career into that, right? So yeah, I want to understand a little bit more how this went in your life, because I think it's very inspiring. I hope it can inspire more people to learn more from other cultures, right, in general. So um, take us back to when you discovered, for example, Brazilian music, and how was that? Where did you see it, and what did you did you see so attractive that you wanted to go deeper into?
Well, it was even more obvious this time I went to Brazil that one of the things that attracts me to it is the community feeling. And there's not really any technique, is there? I mean, you see other people, the way other people play, and you think, oh, that works well, I'll try to copy that. But there's no real foundation of technique, and I think that's really cool as well. It's all about the sound and the power and the feeling as a community all together, and the sound you produce as the whole group. So that really inspired me with that. And just each different instrument. I mean, the surdo, for example, the skin on the surdo, we don't really use that kind of napper head skin in any other style, I think. And it makes such a warm sound, and it's really tempting to use that sound in other styles of music as well. So I composed this piece of music called Romance XL for solo drum kit, and actually I use Brazilian and Cuban styles in that piece. But I really wanted to include the tan. Is that how you pronounce it? The tan. Yeah, tam tam, and because of the napper head. So I have that at the start with this really lovely mellow tone from that drum. And the pandero as well. You don't see that anywhere else. The turning the head so that you can play more notes. And yeah, and then I noticed that there are similar things going on in other parts of the world, like Italy. They have an incredible tambourine technique as well. And there was one Italian actually on this course in Brazil, and he was playing together with Marco Susano his Italian technique, and next to him Marco Susano was doing his incredible Brazilian technique, and that was really cool to see. So we're closer together than we all think in the world. But what initially brought me to samba was those feelings, just being curious of the unique sounds of the drums that I hadn't heard before, and the power. I started off playing in Paraiso in London. Really great samba school.
So that's where you felt the community thing? Was that in the Sunday school in London? And then you got interested more into jumping to the whole movement?
Yeah, that's right. Of course, we studied a little bit at the Royal College of Music as well, and that was already interesting and made me curious to learn more.
Was your studies in the college more into popular music? How do they divide it? Is it more classical, popular, jazz?
Yeah.
How is the division?
It was a classical music college that I went to, and
that's classic.
Yes, so when I auditioned, I played some solo marimba pieces, some orchestral excerpts, and I also played the black page to them, as to show them that what my different interests are, because I'm really interested in keeping the tunes playing, but also keeping the drumming as well, keep everything open. And then we studied mainly 6 subjects. It was split into 6 subjects, including timpani, jazz vibraphone, marimba, solo, orchestral playing, Latin percussion, and one more. Oh yeah, the solo percussion lessons as well.
Okay, so it's super broad. Amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. And okay, you went to Brazil, you went to Cuba, you went to all these places to learn more, right? What can you get there that you couldn't get in the Royal College of Music, for example? Music-wise, I mean, I think it's not just music, right? It's a whole thing. But yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I think you already know the answer to this question. It's many different things, isn't it? It's the atmosphere in Cuba is like nothing else, and you understand how the music came about from immersing yourself in the culture, in the city, around the people. I made sure to stay in Vedado instead of staying in the Havana, the old Havana Vieja. My Spanish isn't very good, but I just wanted to throw myself into it to understand the history and understand why this music was developed in this particular country. Get to know the people, get to know the average settings for playing. That there was one time when I went to a really great rumba concert, a gig, and it was my friend who lives in, she was living in Cuba, now she's in London, but we were together in Cuba, and she said to me, Lucy, do you realize that you're the only white person here? And I said, no, I didn't realize that. Oh, whoops. But I loved it. I was really enjoying it, and I was listening to the bata drums and trying to learn more about the bata drums, because they are a very, very important instrument for so many different styles of music. That history goes so deep. Yeah. It's syncopation like I've never heard.
It's cool that instrument-wise you get very impressed or connected to instruments that are, how can I say it? It's not just symbolic, but the pandero, for example, kind of summarizes samba just in one instrument, right? You really need to understand the whole thing. It's a really complex instrument, and bata as well. So you're like, okay, the pandero in samba is super pada, which is great. Like you can kind of grasp the whole complexity of a music genre, and which is the thing that will be more challenging to learn, which it is, right? Yeah, I definitely can. In Brazil, I come from Brazil, as you know, and it's so huge. So going from São Paulo to the Northeast is like coming from Europe to Cuba, like in a way that it's so different culturally. So I guess I get a little bit of what you say, and going to places when I went to do research and study more into Brazilian traditional music, where I was the only white guy as well. Like, wow, this is, it's incredible. It's incredible how not just white, right, but you come with a different mindset, and you change the environment. So that's something interesting that I would like to know also about your experience. How does the researcher in this case, you are a researcher, not just doing research, but also living that experience, right? How much do you see that your presence there would influentiate the scene? Because yeah, at least I felt it when I was in places that was completely out of my context. I was the different guy there, right? So the contest, that original context stopped being as it is. Now it is a place where there is this white guy looking at me. So everything changes a bit, you know. Did you see this? Did you feel this change somehow?
The way that people would adapt to me, do you mean? Or
Yeah, how would they change the way they play or the way they interact with others, knowing that there is someone looking at them, or you know, there's this other person from Europe here?
Well,
yes, the modesty changes because if you like master conga players playing together, then you're trying to play louder than each other all the time and stuff and show off all the time. And maybe if it's in front of me, then they're really just trying to teach me the rhythms. It's a less of an expectation of what of my capabilities. Maybe I don't know. I'm still asking myself how to answer that question.
That's fine. I don't need to have an answer. Also, I remember many times when, depending on the place, I would enter to investigate. Some would be very receptive, super receptive, and wanting to share knowledge, and right, that's their thing. And in other places, people would be very scared about sharing knowledge because it's true that, yeah, and which isn't true, right? Like niche traditional music come usually from places where people are less privileged, right? So you are in a place that is not privileged in society. So and then comes this person from a very privileged place, right? In their eyes, as well, this rich person comes here, gets all this information, maybe give me a little bit of what, and then go sell this knowledge somewhere else. That's how they get it most of the time in these situations, right? Not generalizing at all. There are many people wanting to share, and this is super complex. I was in different situations where it was hard, like people saying to get out of here or turn off this camera, or you know, like I don't know if you experienced this as well and how you approached it.
See, I haven't experienced what you've experienced, but when we were in Brazil together, it was with JP Courtney, this Irish guy who does a lot of samba through the UK. He organised the trip, and we were all very protected, even though we were travelling very often to the favelas to go to the samba schools. We were all very protected because it was very well organised within the group. So the only difference that we might have experienced was that they just played some easier rhythms for us white people rather than play their usual stuff. But it was still really great to learn everything that they were teaching us. And in Cuba, it was also a bit like that. I only went to people who I had common friends with, almost. And there was one guy, you know, Changuito, of course. Changuito from Los Bamban, the legendary timbale player, and I studied with him, which was incredible. And I think he was, it's hard to tell. He says no a lot. You know, he's famous for that. There's an incredible video on YouTube of him and Dave Weckl. He's teaching Dave Weckl, and it's absolutely hilarious because Dave Weckl does this incredible stuff, incredible fill, and then he goes, no, because it wasn't a Cuban fill. It's brilliant. So I went to him as much as I possibly could. I just booked every hour with him. There was a day when I was quite ill and still went to learn with him, and that was really a lot of effort because he just keeps going until you get the rhythm, and I wasn't even allowed to slow it down. He just kept going and he kept pushing me, and I love that because that makes me learn in the best way, and I have to push my brain to work even faster. Yeah, it's the best way to learn for me. But at no point did I feel like he didn't want to share the knowledge, because he's so proud of himself as well. I guess if you find the people who are so proud of themselves, he's so proud that he invented Songo, and he was telling me all the time, and I would say, I know, that's why I'm here. So he was so happy to teach me all these timbale licks and stuff that he'd composed himself. Yeah.
Super nice. Let me get back to what you said related to the learning process, because this I find super cool that you just said this. Something that I truly believe on how the process of learning music. Just explain a little bit more on what's the ideal process of learning music for you, or an instrument or a rhythm or something.
The way Changuito was with me was not the ideal way, but it did change something inside of me.
Okay.
So since he pushed me to learn everything extremely fast by being very strict and saying no all the time, I thought each time I played it was my last chance. So it made something else work within my brain. And then every situation after that I had to learn something relatively fast, that bit of my brain switched on, and I thought, okay, what is the fastest way that I can get to the end point? Or there's some kind of survival mode that switches on in your brain that makes you think, I have to get it now. But before that, or generally, the best way for me to learn is, oh my God, I think, definitely in small chunks, because my short-term memory isn't very good. My long-term memory holds up well, but my short-term memory is a challenge to deal with. So small chunks, and I always try to memorize things straight away, whether it's with or without music, whether it's with sheet music or audio. And then so I store it as quickly as possible in the long-term memory. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I remember an experience playing with a Samba school in Brazil. That I was also coming from music university, playing jazz so long. So, and I got to this place, and there were, I don't know, 12 years old boys and girls playing so good, and any new change or rhythm that people would do, no one will tell them, okay, now it's ta 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 ta. Like there's never an explanation. It's just, come on, follow me. Ta 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 ta, and you see that the person needs to go through what you said, like this survival mode where you need to deal with frustration, right? You need to deal with you're not playing well, and you're not going to play well, obviously, until you get there. And so, and I feel that education, the system of music education, how it's structured today, it's so systematized that you don't go through frustration. It avoids frustration somehow, which can be a problem, because music is a great opportunity for people to learn how to be frustrated, and then achieve what you wanted. So what do you think about it? What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, exactly. I think there are a lot of things that can be improved in the education system, and I forget now, but there are a lot of things that I needed to unlearn after college. I had some fantastic teachers there, but there were things I needed to. What were they? The thing about being correct all the time. It's unnecessary. You shouldn't be correct all the time. You should let out your personality and find your own interpretation. And that was one lesson that was the best lesson I learned from studying music. My teacher was extremely good, and he taught me to think for myself. Whenever I'd ask him a question, like, well, what interpretation should I do here? What sticking pattern should I do here? He'd say, well, what were you doing before and why? And I always had to have a reason for everything. And then he still wouldn't tell me the answer. Yeah.
Cool. Cool, nice. So back to diversity. Well, this is related to diversity too, but how would you suggest? What would you suggest to people that are trying to learn these new genres that they have no idea about? So I want to play taiko, or I want to play candombe from Uruguay, or whatever. What would you say? Where to start?
Or if they're just going into it fresh, to well, if I'm thinking about what I do, I just go in to a new setting with a blank slate. I don't think about any achievements that I've had before. I think I'm a blank piece of paper, and I need to soak up everything that I can now in this situation. I go in like this, so I don't know anything anymore.
It will challenge your knowledge, right? Like if you try to learn tabla, for example.
Which I haven't. That's really hard, and I haven't been brave enough to go there yet. No.
I started for like a year, and I said, this is like a one-way direction route, that if I go more than this, I will get trapped here. And it's
So difficult.
Yeah. But did you get into it enough? Are you going to continue, or was that enough?
it was enough for me to see that it was huge. Tabla, like the whole world around it was huge, and I felt, oof, that's too much for me right now. I was more into Brazilian and jazz, so I said, it's nice. Then I was playing the tabla technique, but playing Brazilian stuff, or like I had the tabla in my drum set, so I could, because I love the sound of it. So it's pretty hard to have in the drum set because of the volume, because you can't match volumes. The tabla is so low. Okay, let's get a bit more technical into music. Can you give some examples of how you are applying what you learn in one music style to another style, like in real, like specific? You can be specific and technical.
How I do it, I think about how I do it within classical music, and I remember noticing during my time in music college, when we were playing in orchestra, and I would hear these different styles of music coming through the symphonies that we were playing, or the concertos, and thinking, oh, it would be nice if we had some Indian drums here, or it would be nice if we had some African drums or Brazilian drums, because it sounds like that. But no one would notice. Maybe some of my colleagues would, but no one. It's not. You're not supposed to notice those things. It's very hidden. But the interesting thing is, the composer will have either been aware of it, or it would have been subconscious, because when you write a piece of music, all these influences come out from all the years of your life. Sometimes you don't know where they came from, but they'll just come out through your music. So that's why it's quite exciting to try to recognize different styles of music within any composition. Even I love Latin jazz very much. I love Azimuth. Do you know Azimuth? Great Latin jazz fusion band, Brazilian guys. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
They use a lot of, they use cuica and surdo and stuff like that in their music. The traditional Brazilian stuff, but they're jazz musicians as well. And other people like all this jazz fusion stuff, Michael Brecker, all the Dave Weckl stuff. In jazz and pop music, you hear influences from other styles all the time, and we just kind of take it for granted, like, oh, this beat sounds good, but you don't really think about where it came from. And just think about the amount that African or Jamaican or Indian music has inspired hip hop and rap and the other pop music. You always hear it through the electronic beats. But you don't think about it, and whenever you make someone conscious about it, it becomes crossover.
How do you mix it? If maybe you have a composition, because I know you compose too, which is great. Maybe you have a composition that mix, or when you're playing, you think about the textures, or the sound of each instrument, mixing whatever pandero, and like how do you approach this mixing? There's so much information in your head from so many sources, so I'm sure when you play or you compose, you mix stuff. I would like to know how you mix them.
I do it very carefully. Well, I can use Romance XL as an example because I mixed their Cuban and Brazilian rhythms. And I mixed them for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because of the Napa skin head, that I really liked the texture of that. And secondly, because I noticed some similarities in syncopation, or maybe even some differences in syncopation that I could combine very carefully, because I still I still wanted to pay respect to each culture, of course, so I really had to be very careful about it, that I'm using my knowledge rather than just being a bit reckless. So I knew what I was doing all the time. I've fused together rumba, and then I put a surdo beat on the beat 3. Would it be on beat 3? Yeah, it's going to be on beat 3 in that piece. And I love it. I think it sounds great. And then I asked a Cuban guy, what do you think of this beat? And he said, yeah, it's nice, but it would be more Cuban if you would move the tom to the next quaver. I said, but that's not the point.
That's not it.
And then the Brazilian guy, yeah, it would be nice if you just moved it this way.
That's cool. Okay, what do you do when you're not playing? Like, how do you deal with silence? Do you have silence at all in your mind?
It's hard sometimes, as I'm sure you can relate to. It's always busy in my mind, yeah, because I'm always thinking about what I need to do, what's the next thing that I want to do, or what's the priority. And I've got so many things that I want to do stacked up in my mind, and they're all to do with different areas of music. For example, I really want to write a percussion concerto for myself, showing all the things that we've talked about, like trying to incorporate different styles, trying to write a classical percussion concerto, but making those different influences from my life obvious and showing it. The great thing is that percussion is so visual that you can show these things. So when I pick up the pandero, that's obviously going to be an influence of Brazil. And then I'll go over to the vibraphone and play a bit, go over to the drum kit, try and fit the drum kit in an orchestral setting. Just fun things like this. And then I also want to make an album of ensemble music, but my friends are also from different areas of the world and from different musical genres. So that is going to be quite exciting to put together as well. And I also write relaxation music. I call it healing music, actually, for solo vibraphone. And I'll send you some stuff. I'll try to remember. But each of these pieces are written for specific friends, because they might have had struggles in their life. Like one of my friends had a problem with feeling at home in one country because she's from Hong Kong, but then she studied in London and she feels like she has a home in London, but then the government didn't want her, and then she feels like she's kind of stuck between two countries. This kind of feeling I wanted to address through music. And another friend who's anxious, another friend who had insomnia. So I described these feelings through music, or actually tried to describe the good feelings through music, the feelings that can solve the problem, maybe. And I really want to write more of those pieces as well, finish the album. So that there are so many big projects going on in my head.
I'm already overwhelmed.
Solution to this, I found that if you have a hobby that's not music, a hobby that you're quite bad at, then it can shut down your mind for a bit. So I really like climbing. I'm really bad at it, but I love it.
How does your practicing look like?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because there are so many other things to maintain as well. And practice is actually just a small part of the career, it seems. So I really put it as a top priority, and I have since I was young. And I really try to practice for 3 hours at least every day. But when I'm away, I just have the practice pads and the pandero. Recently, I've been having a nice routine of playing the practice pad for an hour and then playing the pandero for half an hour maybe, and then getting on with whatever I'm doing abroad. But yeah, it's hard to maintain, but it's good if you do a little bit every day. And sometimes you can do amazing things in just the space of an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you studying in the pandero? I'm curious.
All the stuff that I learned with Marco Susano when I was in Brazil. No, there's one thing, I've got it right here because I was playing just before I spoke to you. There's one thing he does with the fingers like this. But it's really, really hard. So you have to just accent each one. You'd be good at this because of your studies on tabla. But yeah, just trying to do all the different techniques that he showed me, and it's just really helping my playing.
Cool. Could you say you have a? I'm sure you're gonna say no. If you say yes, you're gonna be very surprised. Do you have a preference between instruments?
I think you're right. I'm going to say no. Oh, but I don't like the ones that you have to use a lot of fingers because I'm not very good at it. But I really need to learn. It's very important that I learn now because there's some stuff coming up where I really should know what I'm doing with that.
Can you share some references that you think everyone should know?
References?
Yeah, maybe from different styles or like the top 5 of your list that everyone should know. Musical references.
Oh my God. Pat Metheny, Chick Corea. I would say Alain Perez, who's a legend, and also my friend Eliana Correa. She's fantastic. She's changing the world of Cuban music. It's evolving the world of Cuban music, I would say. Yeah.
Wow.
So look out for Eliana Correa. Oh my God.
Brazilian, which would be your references?
I don't want to say the wrong thing. Well, Sergio Mendes is a legend. But I love. I've learned that I really like Beija Flor, the Samba group. Beija Flor. Oh, amazing. The huge shapiki. Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, all the consecrated Samba schools are incredible. It's just incredible to see so many people playing so good at the same time in sync. It's just incredible. It's a
yeah.
Okay, amazing. What would you say? Last questions to someone that is starting, that follows you maybe or follows other people playing so well, and they are entering a like they want to play, but you know how things are these days. People are not patient to study as music demands so much study, right? So practice and study and learning and discovering. What's your piece of advice here for this person?
Well, if they want to go into a new style and they don't have much patience or time, I would say choose one thing, one piece of music, one artist, and transcribe one thing and transcribe every single detail. Focus on that, and I think you can learn a lot just from that. Of course, it's better if you have more patience than transcribe 2 pieces, but one is a good start.
You like the idea of transcribing and following exactly what someone else is doing and learn from that?
Yes, because you can get inside of their brain that way, a little bit. You can't, but it's a good way to have an insight. Yeah.
That's great. That's cool. I need to do that more, actually. More. Thank you, Lucy. It was amazing. I learned a lot from you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ra. Nice to meet you.
You're welcome.